Okay, there was a lot of hype for this. Like, this was another Star Wars movie, but everyone had their expectations a little controlled this time because of what happened with Force Awakens. And while I still like that movie, I can understand the complaints. And then I looked at it, and then I was pissed off about it by times. Like, they took stuff from the expanded universe, reworked it a bit, and then just say it's our idea. And they also went ahead and rehashed Episode 4 to a major extent and parts of the original trilogy and mentions of the prequel era. And they go ahead and there's episode 7. And I felt like there could have been potential for a different kind of story, but have some callbacks to it. They didn't do that because they wanted to introduce the Star Wars universe to kids, even though people could just watch the movies at home. So, anyways, like, we all know how this movie ends. Like, they're gonna get the plans, and like I knew that was gonna happen. Everyone knew that was gonna happen. It would be surprising if someone said I didn't see that coming, but I knew this was a prequel to Episode 4 and to the original trilogy. So it caused confusion. Like, how do we label this? Is it a prequel? Is it a pre-sequel? Or something? Because it's a prequel to the original trilogy, but it's a sequel to the prequel trilogy. So everyone just head exploded from that, from trying to detail that. So, okay, they go ahead, get the Death Star plans, and yeah, I was good. I was thinking to myself, this needs to be like Halo Reach, where we want to get invested in these characters. We get the investment, we get the emotions, we feel for them, we want them to survive, but we know it's going to be tragic, and we're going to feel sad and pitied and whatnot. Sadly, that did not really be the case. Like, I was really hoping for that. Like, with the exception of Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor, um, to an extent on that one, the other characters weren't really developed much. Like, from the trailers we saw from, like, let's see, I'm trying to remember his name. Let's see, uh, Baze Malbus, I think, okay, in the trailer he says, I fight the Empire now. They destroyed our home. That's not in the movie. And I'm pretty sure I figured out what the reshoots were. Now, this is just a theory, but I get the feeling the reshoots were scrapping character development for all these other characters so they could scummingly put into the expanded universe of the new Disney canon and put them into books because they could sell more money with the books. That's my best guess. Like, they already made a prequel novel called Catalyst. I didn't read it, but yeah, they go ahead and do this. So they probably cut these character development moments and what we could have learned about these guys. Like, I don't know, like, all these characters were interesting and whatnot. Like the blind guy who believes in the Force. Like, I was thinking, like, okay, I know he's not Force sensitive. They confirmed that there are no Jedi in this, but why do I get the feeling he's a Force attuned? Which is from the expanded universe. Like I've said in numerous videos about how they go in and bring back the stuff from the expanded universe, just change the name and say it's theirs. But like they do this where someone is more deeper connected to the Force but doesn't have the ability of the Force, like the Jedi and Sith have. So like they're more deeper connected to the Force than the average person, and but they don't have enough midichlorians or something like that, or not really connected to the Force like the Jedi or Sith, which would explain why characters like Han Solo can't use the Force and why they don't believe in it. And I get that, which is why I was never mad about the midichlorians. Like that, like I understood why people were mad. Like they never said that in the original trilogy, but like I get why midichlorians was the perfect reason why. Oh, that actually explains why like not every character uses the Force. That actually explains some things. Since well, yeah, it does. And Jyn Erso and everyone else dies in the movie. Like you knew spoilers were coming, so yeah, Jyn Erso dies in the movie. Cassian dies in the movie. The Blind Warrior dies in the movie. The Mercenary dies in the movie. K2SO dies in the movie. The Imperial cargo pilot dies in the movie. Saul Guerrero dies in the movie, and I was surprised that they killed off Forrest Whitaker so quickly. And I was a little mixed on Saul Guerrero on the voice of Forrest Whitaker. Like Chris Duckman said it best. It felt like someone stepped on Forrest Whitaker's throat, and he was forced to talk like this. Like, I get what they were trying to do. Like, he has to breathe through that mask, and he's been through war and hell and back. So I get why they did that. Doesn't mean I like it, but I get why they did that. So I'm not going to complain as much. And once again, I kept thinking every time I saw Gerrera, I was like, that should have been Ahsoka. Like, if they really wanted to put a Jedi in this, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did want to do that, but if they were going to put a Jedi in this, they should put Ahsoka. Round 2 between Darth Vader and Ahsoka. That would be awesome. Like, it was awesome when they did the duel in the show, of Rebels Season 2, but I would have loved to see a live-action version of it. And Ahsoka would be the catalyst for the New Hope, in my opinion. That should have been what she should have done. Like, she dies being a hero and laying the foundation for the Jedi, for the rebellion to eventually win the war and destroy the Death Star. But, like, I like this movie, don't get me wrong, but I really would have paid money to see Ahsoka again. And there were a lot of Easter eggs in this movie. Like, you see the two guys who were seen in the cantina on Tatooine. How this guy says, I have the 12 death sentences on 5 systems. I think that was the quote. I could be wrong. And the Botha guy who loses his arm. I can't remember his species name. Like, there's so much expanded universe material that it's hard for me to keep track on every species name. And yeah, when I saw that Jyn Erso's mother was gonna show up in this, I was like, yeah, she's gonna die. Like, she's never shown up in the clips. She's never seen in the movie. It's just between her and her father. Yeah, she's gonna die, like, right at the beginning. Oh, look, she died at the beginning. And they don't do an opening crawl. Let me point that out. That was a first for Star Wars, not doing an opening crawl. And while I get that this is an anthology, not an official saga movie, I'm pretty sure people will be pissed about that because they can't really imagine a Star Wars movie not having, well, the signature opening crawl. Like they had a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But to not do this, yeah, it's kind of weird. So, and we, and okay, Gareth Edwards has said that this was supposed to be a big war movie. It's the reality of war. Good guys are bad, bad guys are good. It's complicated, layered, a very rich scenario in which to set a movie. They kind of did that, but the Empire was still portrayed as the villains. Yet the rebels, they were shown to be flawed as well. But the Empire, we didn't see like a character justifying his actions, believing this will create peace. Like, you had other characters saying, you will not create peace, you will create terror. And they just admit, well, we have to start somewhere. So, like, oh dear God. So, like, they kind of cut out a lot of the war element of the whole good guys are good, bad guys are bad. Like, the Rebel Alliance is flawed. Like, they flawed it. And I was glad for that. They're not the good guys that you think they are. Like, they're still good. They're fighting for democracy and the liberation of the Empire. But you have to also, but they also have flaws to them. Like Saw Gerrera, like he was part of the rebellion, but his extremist attitude and militaristic style that got a lot of people looking at him in a different way caused a dissension between the two, and it's up to Jyn Erso to try and mend those problems. And Saw Gerrera is ultimately killed off in the movie, which I was surprised that he was killed off so early in the movie. Because I was thinking, like, oh, Saw Gerrera, he's gonna get killed by Vader. That was my best guess. Because I would think that if Vader saw Saw Gerrera, he would be reminded of Ahsoka, and that would cause him to go into a rage and try to kill him, and successfully, most likely. But yeah, they didn't do that. He gets killed by the test weapon of the Death Star. And okay, I'm gonna ask this question. Why is the Death Star able to lower its power? Like, it's able to blow up planets. We've always seen that. It's always been, even in the old Legends canon, but now it has an option to destroy an entire field, but not the entire planet. Okay. That's different, but kind of confusing at the same time. Like, is this just for convenience so the rebels, so the eventual characters could escape? Okay. So yeah. Anyways, there's a lot of Easter eggs in this, like I said. Like, and there's also mentions of the rebels from Star Wars Rebels, like Phoenix Squadron. Like, we hear General Syndulla. We see the Ghost actually in the Battle of Scarif. Kind of. It's probably the ship, or it could be a different ship. And then we see the Hammerhead cruisers, which I refuse to acknowledge as part of the Disney canon. It's obviously homage to Old Republic era legends. And that made me say, yeah, that's the closest we'll get to a Old Republic era movie for a while. Like, unless Disney brings it back, which I highly doubt, since that really gave depth and character development to stuff and really explained some things. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Disney's gonna screw it up anyways. Like, I would pay to see Darth Revan in a movie and the Old Republic era, the Jedi Civil War, and I'm pretty sure they'll screw it up in some way. So, anyways, so like I said, like the characters are not really developed as much as you would hope. Like Jyn Erso's the only one, and there's also another. We also see Bail Organa back. Then we also see Tarkin. We see Princess Leia at the end, and I'm like, okay, the CGI is kind of good here. Like I could tell it's CGI. Like the actors are dead or very old now. Like we know what Leia looks like, but I get they had to use CGI or well, really Leia they could have used Carrie Fisher's daughter, since she looks really like a younger Carrie Fisher. So they could have used her, but I don't know why they didn't. But like, it also explained where the Death Star's weakness came from, and Galen created it as an integral part to destroy it. And you could look at Episode 4 now as Galen's revenge, since he said it's his revenge. And he dies as well. He's killed by the rebels inadvertently, sort of. They kind of wanted Casson to kill him, but he didn't go through with it. So that shows corruption within the alliance. Like they're told one thing, and the politicians say, "Well, let's do it another way. Let's not tell these guys." So yeah, and it really like if they like all the characters that go out, they go out badass. Like they're likable, you like them, but they should have gotten more development. Like K2SO, like yeah, he's not gonna get character development because he's a droid. Like I get that, so yeah, I kind of did miss the droid. But the other characters, they should have been given more time to develop. Like between the scene where you see when they go into hyperspace to go to Scarif, like it takes a couple of hours to go through hyperspace, and they did do a scene prior when they were heading to let's see, what was the planet? Uh, okay, I'm trying to remember. Uh, it's the Raining Storm planet, and okay, yeah, I don't remember. The Storm planet, I don't remember its name. Like they go ahead into hyperspace and they talk for a bit, and why didn't they do that with Scarif? Like they could have like built up this big moment where like, we're close to the end and the characters start to get to know one another before they really go through with this. Like I can't believe we're going through with this. Like we gotta talk. Like man, this is really it. Like we're really gonna do this. And when they talk and like they could have done that, and I get the feeling they cut that out. I wouldn't be surprised if they cut that out because we need expanded universe books. Like I'll give George Lucas credit. Like he did a lot of questions that need to be answered through the expanding universe, and that made me like the prequels more. But it just kind of feels. I don't know. Like I get like George Lucas. Like you can't tell everything in a movie. Like there has to be some compromises. But at the same time, you have to give some depth to these characters for us to truly care about them. I wanted to have the Halo Reach feels, where I wanted these characters to live. I know they're gonna die, but I want them to live so badly because they're so awesome. And like they go out badass, like they go out doing their job, and they're likable, but you don't feel that pain. You don't feel that emotion hit you like no. And I'll get to Darth Vader in a moment. Like he's only in the movie for like a total of 4 minutes, according to Chris Stuckman, and he was right. But he does a badass entrance when he comes in. Like I was a little surprised. I was wondering, wait, they're on this. there's this giant castle. Vader has a castle now, a base, and accordingly, it's on Mustafar. So yeah, this is kind of a joke towards because originally this was supposed to be an Empire Strikes Back in the original drafts, but they cut that out, and Vader was supposed to have a castle. So they go and explain this. So I get that, but I was thinking like, okay, I get Anakin has a history with the planet since it kind of created Darth Vader to an extent with the suit, but yeah, I don't, yeah, like they saw he knows what happened to the Separatist facility when the shields went down, and people knew where the castle was, which begs the question when the rebels in season one had learned about the ship there, about the base there, and they could have just bombed it if they got through the Star Destroyers. Maybe. I thought that was just a giant prison. And Vader is in the movie, oh, in this scene when this hooded figure bows before him. Now I was wondering, who's the hooded figure? Like, I know that's not Vader, and I know that's not the Emperor, because the Emperor doesn't bow to anybody. He serves himself. And, well, why is Anakin in a Bacta tank? Shouldn't he have been in that giant machine that he usually is in? That they shown in Empire Strikes Back? Yeah, I'm confused by that. And I think we got a tease of Hayden Christensen. Like, I don't think he was completely in the movie. They just showed a CGI model of him being burned, and they hid his face in order to keep that mysterious aura to him, even though we know what he looks like underneath the mask from both episode 3 and episode 6, and to an extent episode 5. So so they go ahead and do this moment that really pissed me off. Vader is talking to the director of the Death Star. Okay, so far so good. Like, when I saw this scene in the trailer, I was thinking like, oh, I think I get it. The rebels steal the Death Star plans. They're on they pass it to Princess Leia when they get killed, and Vader takes the director onto his Star Destroyer that we've seen in Episode 4, and he basically kills him. Like, that was my best guess. No, it's instead in Vader's castle. And I'm like, okay, that's surprising, but like, my prediction was wrong. Oh well. So, Vader tells him about his flaws, his faults, and I was glad they gave the director a somewhat villain to deal with Tarkin, since Tarkin wanted to take credit for the Death Star, even though we all know that that wasn't the case, and he tries to take control of it, so that shows inner squabble within the Empire, giving a more human element to it, but really, there's not that whole, I believe in the Empire because I feel like this is the right thing we're doing. Like, the Death Star is a good thing to an extent. Like, I get what it does, but really, we're trying to provide security. We're trying to do the best we can for the galaxy. Like, you don't agree with them, but you understand them, but really, you don't get that. And the director gets choked by Vader when he asks him, so I'm still in charge of the Death Star project? And Vader says something that I didn't know if I should laugh because it's Darth Vader saying this or be pissed that Darth Vader said this. Vader turns around, holding out his hand while he's choking him with the Force, and he says, be careful or be wise not to choke on your aspirations, director. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if I should laugh or be pissed. Like, Vader just made a pun. Darth Vader, the most badass, most tragic character we've ever seen in Star Wars lore, or in a lot of lores throughout our fictional desire of creating stuff, and he is making a pun. I don't know if I should be happy that this was funny or be pissed that this happened. Okay. I don't know. So, man. So, yeah, I was like, yeah, part of me wanted to get up and scream, no! But at the same time, I wanted to laugh. But this is Darth Vader, the most tragic villain character in Star Wars. I can't really call him a villain because he's not technically a villain. Like, he's doing all these horrible things, but he's punishing himself because that was the original version of Vader on the expanded universe. They turned him into just a straight up villain. Like, he's an evil man. He has no good in him. He has no sense of consciousness. He's pure evil. He's not a fully developed three-dimensional character to Anakin Skywalker that has a tragic history in life and is suffering from trauma, pain, loss, and it feels like life needs to punish him and make him and torture himself through doing the acts of the Empire, feeling like he should be damned for life. No, let's cut all that complicated developing character for Vader. We need to make him look like a villain for the kids to boo at. Okay. Okay. So, anyways, moving on. So, this happens, and Tarkin, like I said, Tarkin and Princess Leia show up in the movie. Tarkin's in it a really lot. Like, I get it. He's integral to Episode 4, but Princess Leia didn't show up much. Like, they could have kept him off screen or talk about him, or, like, it's just weird seeing this actor who's been dead since 1994 come back to life as a CGI model. So I was like, okay, I can tell that's CGI. That's a fully recreated CGI of Tarkin. This is the power of technology we're at. We're basically creating life through movies and resurrecting it. Like, it's only a matter of time until people resurrect Michael Jackson for movies. So, okay. And they never really explain how this blind guy has, like, you could make the argument, oh, maybe it's his enhanced hearing or able to see with enhanced abilities like Daredevil is able to, but that was the nuclear radiation. Or maybe he is kind of connected to the Force, like the changing that up for Force attunement. Like, even though you don't have the full powers of the Force, you still have some bits of the Force to connect with. Like, that could be used a lot. But really, no, they don't explain it, and they really should have. And also, anyways, so, like, you had this feeling the Empire has some divisions with the director and Tarkin, and then, like, when Vader choked the director, I told my friend Lean Deer, saying, like, when he was with me for the movies, I said, and this is the guy who wants to be in the big boys club, because that was the director's main goal. It wasn't to provide security for the Empire, like he likes to say. Instead, and even though he admitted that his first step is to start terror and fear, but his other reason is because he wants to be in the big boys club. He wants to hang with Thrawn. He wants to hang with Palpatine. He wants to hang with Vader. He wants to hang with Tarkin. And he feels like the Death Star is his ultimate motivation to do so. Yeah, that sounds kind of stupid. Like, the reason why I also add Thrawn is because he's the Grand Admiral, and we don't know how he became Grand Admiral in the Disney canon. Palpatine, I think, personally appointed him in the Legends canon. And I'll talk about Thrawn in my Rebels Season 3 video when the show ends next year. And boy, do I have a lot to say about that. And then we might have also saw Chopper. We might have saw Chopper when one of the communicator officers are talking and they hear these coded messages, and they're running towards Mon Martha, who I must add the actor is strikingly similar because it is basically her. Like, the actress from Return of the Jedi is like, okay, you look so much like her, it's kind of scary. And this wasn't a CGI model. She appeared in Revenge of the Sith 10 years ago. So, to see her again, and she still looks the same as she was 11 years ago, is kind of surprising. And the reason why I say she appeared in Revenge of the Sith, that's kind of true, but at the same time not, because she was in deleted scenes. She was supposed to appear in Episode 3, but they cut her out. But they're still canon, I think. or at least was in Legends. So the Rebel Alliance is flawed. They show that. I'm glad they did that to show that they're not the perfect heroes that the Jedi once were in people's eyes. Like, and also I love the Jedi statue. Like, I like that to show that that era is over. That days of glory of the old Republic is dead. I really like the visuals of it. This was a visually stunning movie. Like, if this doesn't win Best Picture, well, I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't win Best. I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't win Best Picture, since there are some problems with this movie. But if it doesn't win Best Visual Effects, I will riot. No, not really. I'll just say, man, that's bad. Like, wow. And then I was like, oh, we got a name title drop when they said Rogue One. Okay, saw that coming from the trailer. So, and at least they took it seriously. They were trying to make some excuse, so they just came up with Rogue One on the whim. Whereas a lot of movies tend to make pun jokes regarding it, like Will Smith in Suicide Squad saying, "So we're some sort of Suicide Squad then." And I'm like, oh dear God. And that was just from the commercials. I haven't seen the movie yet. I plan to later since I have the Blu-ray and the extended cut, but I'll talk about that later down the road. And along with that, I also wanted to say, like, the Death Troopers, they were a nice addition from the old EU. And I did want to hear explanation. I want to see, like, this answer the long-standing question about the Death Star, about the hole. But I always loved the mystery to it in the old Legends canon, because Vader obviously, because here's the thing. Vader in episode 4 complained a lot about the Death Star, saying it is nothing compared to the Force. And that always made me think, wait, wouldn't he been able to detect with the Force or see visions of the future of the Death Star's destruction? Bits and pieces of it? Wouldn't he be able to detect that? And this is Vader. He's known for attention to detail. Even Anakin was like that. Sometimes reckless, granted, but he was always for detail on this when it comes to fighting. So, when he had detected that and decided to keep it in there because he didn't want anyone to know, because he kind of hates, because he personally hates the Death Star, and thought, if they destroy it, I get to kill off Tarkin and all the people who mock the Force and the corruption within the Empire, so it's a win-win for me. So I always loved that mystery to it. Like, that was my best interpretation. That also gave Vader a little bit of layers to it. Like, I looked at it like this, but now Disney's telling me I have to look at it like this. It's Galen's revenge. Uh huh. So yeah, and like, okay, one of the reshoot moments is Saw Gerrera, because we don't see that line of dialogue where he says, "What will you become? What will you do if they catch you? What will you do if they break you? What will you become?" We never see that, and I know for a fact when I saw that trailer, I was like, okay, that's supposed to happen way later into the movie, right? Like when we see him talking to Jyn Erso, that's clearly who he was talking to, and they cut that out. Then they reshot the movie a little bit. So the only difference they made to scenes other than cut some stuff out is add hair to him. That was really important. Like, you see him without hair and he looks relatively the same. Like, I get they were trying to make time look like past, and he grew hair for God knows 13 years. Um, because it has been 13 years since when Guerrero rescued Jyn Erso when she escaped. So I'm like, okay, why give him hair for the reshoots? That was clearly the most important thing about the reshoots. Like, the other one was to change up the ending a bit, and I understood that. Like to retool the ending of the film, which was not coming together as hoped under Edwards' direction. Like, I'm pretty sure Edwards had like wanted to produce a potential sequel. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, because there were rumors that a sequel would happen. But Jyn Erso and the other cast and all the other characters are dead now. Uh, and like like I'm glad that this wasn't like a horrendous rehash of an episode. This is a full fledged prequel. It feels like it has its own identity. And while I do get iffy on the expanding universe material they put in, because I know it can be, because they can bring back the expanding universe, the Star Wars Legends. They can bring it back. They tease it over and over again. They show imagery of it. They show items of it. They bring back stuff from it. They just change it up a bit, say it's their idea, and not say, oh, these guys do it? Oh, no, really. So there are some people who were mixed about Tarkin's appearance, specifically because it was because CGI kind of, you could tell at times, like I could tell it was a CGI character, computer generation of it, and it looked weird, including Leia. Like they looked realistic enough, but I could tell it was CGI. Like I know for a fact Carrie Fisher's old, and Tarkin's, and the actor who played Tarkin, Peter Cushing, is dead. So yeah. And Vader, when the battle is nearing the end and they get the Death Star plans, there's this badass scene with Vader, and I was like, that's the highlight. That's a big highlight. I call it. I knew it. Saw it coming. Knew it was going to happen. I was hoping he would take buys, and when people shot at him, it would hit the rebels like he's done in the comics of the new Disney canon, where he took stormtroopers when when Chewbacca, I think, fired at him, and he took bodies of stormtroopers and blocked them in front of him. I was really hoping they would do that. Like, that would really been pushing it, but and that would have been awesome. Especially it being word that it was going to happen. Sadly, that didn't happen. Like, when I predicted the ending, I was thinking they were going to, like, do this, like, where they go ahead and, like, go ahead and do this. Darth Vader does the badass scene, then kills the director, Kenrix, Krenix, I don't know. And I was thinking that they were going to go and do this. Vader kills him on the Star Destroyer, orders the ship to follow the Tentative 4, since that escaped from the battle, and they and then they show Leia Organa getting the plans, and I was also curious on something, but I'll get to that in a moment. But like, then we open up to the shot of Revenge of Episode 4: A New Hope, and then it just cuts to credits after that. Like that would have been perfect for me. Like I would have loved that. So there were two moments that made me like, oh god. Like when we see C3PO and R2D2, they come back for this appearance, and C3PO just complains. Wait, we didn't see them leave with the rebels, so wouldn't it have made more sense to like have a scene where some rebel officer comes up to them and says, "You're being redeployed with the rebel fleet. You're being redeployed," from one of the people who would pretty much disobey the rebels' orders to get the plans. Like, wouldn't that make more sense to have that? Because I don't know how they got on the Tentative 4 if there's no scene that shows that they're getting told to go on there. And also, the Hammerhead ship is a pretty small ship. They take down a Star Destroyer, it disables its shields, and I'm supposed to believe the Hammerhead cruiser is able to push this massive Star Destroyer into another one. Okay, they show the size of the ship, and they show the size of the Star Destroyer. The Star Destroyer, I know, is zero gravity, but like, come on, I'm really supposed to believe that? Like, wouldn't it make more sense to get a bigger rebel ship to do that? Like, I kind of get, like, maybe there's a risk to it, since they could destroy the ship before it actually crashes. But, really? Like, I guess it's called Hammerhead, but you don't need to take it so literally. And, yeah, I was like, but I did enjoy this movie. I like the characters, but feel like they could have been more developed. I liked Vader's 4 minutes of fame in this, like kicking ass pretty much and taking names. I did love the battle. I did love the Easter eggs we got. Bail Organa says he's going to Alderaan, and I was like, you're gonna die, like hard, so badly. You're on your own Titanic ship. Like the Titanic's taking you to where you're gonna die. Like you're on your own Titanic, man. Like Yeah, yeah, don't go on that ship. You're gonna die. Oh, he went on the ship, and then they choke about. Then they tease Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's on Tatooine still at this time. We don't see him in the movie, but he might show up in a standalone trilogy of his own. But he's going to go ahead. They mention him indirectly, say, "I fought with him during. I was with him during the Clone Wars. I believe he can help us in our time of need." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's Obi-Wan. They're teasing Obi-Wan, man. At least they're acknowledging the prequel era with Bail Organa showing up. Like it was inevitable they had to have him show up, and they're talking about the Clone Wars. They're talking about Obi-Wan. Like I know he's from the original trilogy since that's how he showed up in it. But Saw Gerrera, I like the fact that they're acknowledging the Clone Wars series. They're acknowledging Rebels. Well, I kind of don't like Rebels as much as Clone Wars because Rebels has so many problems with it. And I've told you in my season 2 video about it. And Space Whales. Remember that? Even Jeremy Johns took a joke on that. And that was months after I made the video. So I should take credit for that. Not really. So, yeah. If they had developed the characters more, the other characters beside Jyn Erso, I would have been more emotionally impacted by their deaths. Like, I was glad that they died for this cause, and I'm glad they went out. And I also like to say when the Rebel Alliance was divided, like one wants to fight and the other wants to surrender, I was like, oh, I think I know where they're going. They're going to take a pocket of rebels and they're going to leave to go get the plans, basically do the Mass Effect suicide mission, and then in this case, when they're doing this mission, it looks like all hope is lost when they're doing this plan because they're going to have a hard time trying to get out. The rebel fleet arrives. A defected rebel fleet arrives, and they do this. Yeah, I saw that coming a mile away. Like, yep, called it. Like, we saw the trailers of the battle. We know they're going to get there. In fact, this movie was easy to predict at times because you know what's going to happen, but you want it to feel more impactful with the characters. And we did know what happened to certain characters, why certain characters did not show up in the movie, why certain troopers didn't show up in the movie, why certain things to an extent. So, yeah, I found that out. So that was interesting. At least they explained why certain things weren't in the original trilogy. But I was hoping they would give a joke to like there's like when they're talking about the projects the Empire has in their archives when they're looking for the Death Star plans. Um, there's a moment where they say Black Saber, and I'm like, wait, are they talking about the Dark Saber from the Clone Wars and Rebels series? Since this shows up in Rebels season 3, are they talking about making their own form of soldiers? Wait, where have I heard this before? Oh god. You took the Ronfell Empire, didn't you? From the expanded universe of Legends. Because you're making Imperial Knights now. Congratulations, you are stealing more stuff and just twisting it around to make your own lightsabers. And I like the fact they show kyber crystals this time in the movies. Nice to see animated stuff be brought to life, even though it might be hard to do that. Except for items, they could digitally recreate that or make props out of it, but characters, that's going to be a different story. But, like, man, I really did like this movie. It's like there's some problems to it. Like the characters aren't really developed much, and they don't really make that big impact when they get killed off. Like they're likable, they're funny at times. Like I really laugh a bit when the blind warrior said when they masked his face for some reason, saying, "I'm blind. Are you kidding me? I'm blind." And I'm like, that was a good laugh. That was a good one. And K2SO was really funny. He talked a lot. He was C3PO, but one that kicked ass. And he went out badass like. Like, you felt like Kaysen cared about him, cared about the droid, even though he's an Imperial Enforcer droid whose memory was wiped by him. by Andor, but you felt like he cared about him because he's been on so many adventures with him. You felt like he cared since he tried to go back for him, but until he locked the blast door. So you felt like he cared. That was one moment I felt like the death impacted me. But man, all these Easter eggs, all these homages, like they do the I have a bad feeling about this. That is virtually in every Star Wars movie, but in this case, they the droid says it and says I have a bad feeling about, and then General So and Kason tell him to shut up. And the one thing I was surprised about, to a small extent, because Hollywood tends to make this like a law now, as the Nostalgia Critic joked about, um, how Jyn Erso and Kason didn't really get together. Like they teased it at the end when they were hugging and holding hands. But I don't really look at that as a romantic gesture, more like the thing like, yeah, we did it. Like the sacrifice meant something. We real hope. We made hope to this rebellion. Like it felt like more like a hug of an accomplishment. Like we finally did it. We did this. We managed to get through with this. And they get killed off by the Death Star blast. Like the Death Star comes in, destroys the Imperial Tower, that kills the director, and I was like, symbolic. Killed by his own creation. Sort of. He wasn't really the full-fledged creator of the Death Star. He just built it. He kind of helped build it as of the director, but he wasn't really the creator of the Death Star. I think that belonged to the Geonosians. But moving on. But like, yeah, it was awesome. And yeah, I knew he was gonna die because we don't hear from him, and like, especially when Jyn Erso told him about there's a is there that there's the weak spot. Like, yeah, he's gonna die. And he's been shot like 23 times in this movie, and he still is able to go out. It took the Death Star to kill him. Like that would have been a badass way to go. Like it would like I was like Saul Guerrero went out kind of badass, like to a small extent. Like he spread his arms out, I think, after he took his breather off, and since he is apparently scarred by war and his scars are kind of affecting his lungs, I think, since he has trouble breathing, I was hoping he would like scream to a small extent, or look like he's about to scream until the blast consumes him. And yeah, it was like I didn't really get invested with Saw Gerrera. Like I was glad they made him flawed. Like maybe it's Stella's death that made him become more militaristic, that caused him this radical change in his personality to be more aggressive. Like they don't explain that. Like they don't even explain who Saw Gerrera is. They just expect you to know it, even though they could have just explained it in a short sentence saying, "I was once a rebel on Onderon during the Clone Wars against the corrupted king. I lost a lot of good people there, including my sister." That could have been explained within less than a minute. They could have done that. Like, this is what someone in the comments section said when I told them why couldn't Ahsoka be in the movie. And they said, well, that's exactly why. Because if we put Ahsoka in the movie, they would have to, they would have no, but they wouldn't be able to explain everything about her because mainstream fans don't, because a lot of people don't know who she is in the movies. They just watch Star Wars for the movies at times. A lot of people do. They don't watch the Clone Wars series because, I don't know, they don't want to, or they look at it as a kid's show, which really isn't the case. But they would have to watch the show, read the book, watch the shows, read the book again to get an understanding who Ahsoka is, and then watch the Rogue One movie. And I get that, but I think it's because I'm such a big Star Wars fan that I know who Ahsoka is to a major extent, that I wanted her to be in this movie. I felt like it would have been great to see Darth Vader versus Ahsoka too. Like, I really want her to live and have her be the symbol of a new hope. Like, yeah, they gave it to Felicity Jones, and she was awarded over 7 figures of worth of money, the most paid actress and the most paid actor overall in the movie. So, and I was surprised Forrest Whitaker wasn't paid like the second paidest guy. Like, wow, he didn't get paid. He wasn't really like, this is a talented actor. The rest of them I've never seen before. Maybe Donnie Yen. I think he was in Walking Dead. They said. I think Jeremy John said that. and maybe my Martha's actress, and maybe um, Jimmy Smith, who plays Bail Organa, and Anthony Daniels, who plays C3PO. But they were small cameos, so I get why Felicity Jones was paid more. So I get that. And I was really thinking like they were gonna do some twists with the former Imperial pilot, like maybe his mind is broken because he looked like he was having memory issues when he was technically tortured by this memory slug, or I think. And I was thinking like, oh, that's gonna be a problem for them probably. Like, is it gonna affect them? Is it gonna cause them in any way? Nope. You could cut that out, and that would not change anything. Like like he mumbled like, "I'm the pilot. I'm the pilot," and I'm like, okay, well, what else is there? Okay, like I was expecting him to be more like a coward character, and then finally does something brave and does the thing that gets him killed off. Like I thought that was what he was going to be, but they didn't do that. He's just some guy that helps out and dies in the battle. And I liked how the blind warrior, I can't pronounce his name for the life of me. I'll just call him Donnie Yen. uh, does this mantra saying, I am one with the Force is with me. I am one with the Force is with me. I am one with the Force is with me. And like that makes him show that he's a true believer of the Force. Like they said he was the keeper of the Kyber crystal of the Jedi Temple that was on the planet of Jeddah that was destroyed by the Empire. Yeah, they really hate the Jedi, and I wouldn't really blame anybody because considering what the Jedi did in Clone Wars and at the tail end of it all, yeah, I don't feel sorry for them. Really, really much. Like, I still feel sorry for the younglings because, let's see, they were either going to get all killed off by the Empire or grow up to be the very thing to be taught horrible lessons that really conflicted people's, that really causes problems later down the road and makes them become the very thing they were sworn to destroy, or at least fight against and protect the innocent. So, let's see. Trying to remember anything else. Man, like I pretty much went through all the points I could make. Like you could like I was tempted to rewatch episode 4 after this. Like I already saw it. Like I saw it earlier this year in preparation for Rogue One, and then I did it again after Force Awakens. But I still have that expanded universe love, that old Legends love. So I could look at it and make it and like I heard some guys talk after the movie was over, that they said I'm gonna rewatch episode 4, like it has new meaning to it, like you really look more into it and whatnot. And while I could say that this is a better version of the Legends version of how they get the Death Star plans, because I don't know how Legends did it, I don't recall, but this one was made into a movie. That's the big point they can make. So I could give them props for that. And George Lucas liked this movie, and he didn't like act like the whole. Uh, oh, I like Force Awakens. Not really. I actually think I believe I sold my child to white slavers. No, oh, I meant I like the movie. I like the direction they're going with, even though I said repeatedly in an interview that I don't like the direction they're going with. Whereas George Lucas was straight to the point saying, I like it. In fact, I found out that John Knoll, a visual effects supervisor for the prequel trilogy, pitched the idea for him for the film 10 years before its development. After Disney acquisition, he felt as if he tried to pitch it again or forever wonder what might have happened if I had. So really, gotta give props to John Knoll for wanting to talk to this. I don't know if this was the vision George Lucas had for the Death Star plans being stolen. I don't know if this ever would be. If he ever like the standalone films, they were his idea reportedly. Like the president of Kathleen Kennedy said that standalone movies for Star Wars was George Lucas's idea. So at least that's something they took from George Lucas instead of just saying, "F off, we're in control now." So yeah, man. this film was good. Like, this film was really good. It was visually great. A lot of it was great. The characters could be more developed. Like I said, um, it was so close to getting the Halo Reach feel. We just needed the characters to be more developed and make you feel sympathy for them when they get really killed. Like, you still do, but you don't feel that impactfulness to it. So, that was one flaw I could find with the movie, and really, I wanted to see Darth Vader kick ass. So, everyone, these were my thoughts on Star Wars Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Sorry, I couldn't help but say that. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to Tune for more.